Right, that's Bigbury-on-Sea, the other side of Bantham. The sand dunes. That's Mum. Oh, it's lovely to see her. And here she is coming over the rocks to Curry Cove.
Why is it called Curry Cove?
Because that's where you find cowrie shells there. And that's where we used to catch shrimps and lobsters. And there's Burr Island, where Agatha Christie's book, I can't remember what it was called, one of them was written. Here's Dad coming round with his rucksack on the back. And in the rucksack there will be probably a kettle, because we never ever had tea from a thermos. He's got corduroy trousers on. And that's looking towards Dalston, along towards Dalston from Cowrie. And Cowrie was very stony, so it wasn't particularly good for swimming, but it was very good for shrimping and things like that. And that's the cliffs up to the top of Cowrie. It's the boathouse at Bantham, and on the corner is the figurehead from one of Shackleton's boats, Lady Shackleton. And in the war, we used to take a ferry across there to Bigbury and then go up the cliffs. There you are. Oh, we're cooking sausages or shrimps or something there. That's a view of from Stadbury, one of my favourite views. And there's Heron Wood on the left, and the bottom of the estuary goes right out into Bantham. This was on the farm.
This was your farm?
Yes, this is our farm where we lived. And this is Anne. And we had all this land. We had 50 acres of really wild land that we rented next to the river, and wonderful primroses. I don't know what's going on here. And we had lots of cats on the farm. We had one that lived inside and the others that lived outside. We used to just go out in the farmyard and say, Minnie, 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 and they'd all come. This is Stadbury. My room's the one on the right at that very far right. And it was a 12th century Devon longhouse mentioned in the Doomsday Book. And those are the farm buildings, and these are some of the cats.
Why were you on the farm? Your dad was a solicitor, I thought.
No, he wasn't.
What did he do then for a living?
He was being a social worker, and then when he retired, and he taught for a bit, and then when he retired, he always wanted to run a farm. And from the farm, you could look right down to the sea. It was the most beautiful place.
That's quite grand, that.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was called a manor, Stadbury Manor. And it had 2 houses with it and about 6 of the most beautiful tithe barns and things. It's another view down the estuary. And
so you were there right up until your teenage years, were you?
Yes. And at Swans, the estuary was wonderful. And when low tide, it went out, there were sandbanks, and we used to pick samphire and things to eat. And there were herons and loads of birds, and you could swim. There's a pool. There's the pool. Look, just down there, and you could swim. It was really deep. I don't know what that is. That's looking up the other way, I suppose. Yes, that's looking at the farm. We had cows and sheep and hens. Yes, and Mum loved the garden. Can't remember that cat. That's Mrs. Blue. I took Mrs. Blue to London. We had loads of kittens and things. That's out in the courtyard at the back of the kitchen where we had all meals. Yeah.
Is that your mum's roses then?
Yeah, that's the one she trained up the wall. Look at them all. We had horses and cows, and we had electric generator. We didn't have electricity. We had our own generator. Now this is Jonathan, who went bald, as you see, very early, running round with Harry, and he always had very flat feet. Yes, that's Harry as a baby. Now, who's that? Is that little dumpling there? I don't know. Can't make out who that is. Well, we used to sit outside the front door and do the vegetables on those sort of stone things. That's Tansy, Bridget's dog. That is Dad's first trip to Tor Cross, the first time he'd met my parents. The house was absolutely full. There's Stella, Mark Elledge. Can't see who that is. I don't know who is that.
Two other chaps in the distance, aren't there?
Yes.
Mark Elledge has got the striped top on,
Right.
hasn't he?
I don't know. Is that Titus and Lance? I don't know.
And that's Stella.
Stella. And there's Mark Elledge taking pictures. He was a really brilliant newspaper photographer in the 60s.
And he played with the soft machine.
Yeah. No, Mark Elledge didn't. But Batty Robert was his half brother. That's him. And this is breakfast. We ate outside all the time. Look at Dad in his white shirt.
He's very handsome. Is your mum quite a joker?
Yeah, Mum was a real joker. And she was always laughing and happy, basically, always. Everybody else seems to have disappeared. Don't know where they've all gone.
Well, Dad's seen off all the other suitors, I think.
Yeah, and look at him in his brogues and his white shirt. He's supposed to be on holiday. He's eating a chicken leg. He's not quite sure what to do.
And if the house was full, where did Dad stay?
And he stayed in a hut on the cliffs. And in latter years, the hut fell down. And Mrs. was walking round the cliffs. We'd walked round the cliffs a lot.
Stella looks like quite a tomboy.
Well, she did there, yes. And that's the view to Start Point. That's from the other side, though. I can't remember the name of that beach that we went down to. Not Benrick's Cove. One of the, I think, beautiful beach. Look at that. Oh, that's the view from our house, is it? No, I can't.
Yeah, that's the other side of Tor Cross.
Who's that sunbathing?
Was there a little deck thing down there where you could sunbathe?
Yeah, but that looks like sandy beach. Unbelievable seeing Dad like that.
He's very handsome.
This is...
Got your mum and dad swimming?
I think so. Mum used to shout from the top of the cliffs. Yes, that looks like her swimming stroke. Very precise. Now, who's this? Dad with Harry. Now, this is what I'm not quite sure. There's Anne. I think that must be Robin Harrison, because that's his dog. He was called Trigger. Harry's so sweet. Look at him, all chubby and lovely. Always having picnics, always, and nearly every day would go out and have picnics. Can't quite make out where this is. I think either it's the lime kiln or Cowrie, but there seems to be sand to build that. So, or it was Anna's very messy eater. That's why she's doing that hand. But I can't see where Bridget and Jonathan are in this. We seem to have. Yeah, that's Robin Harrison.
Do you think William was being born? Or
I don't know.
Richard?
I don't know. Yeah, that's Robin. Can't remember the name of his brother now. Yeah, this is so sweet. Grandy's built the boat, teaching Harry to row. Harry now rows in a skiff on the River Thames, so there's the beginning.
And your dad always wore a hat and had a pipe?
Quite often, yeah. Gave up the pipe after a time. But he was bald fairly young. He wore that what we call the pork pie. And Anne's teaching him to row now. Yeah, looking very glamorous. So sweet. Yeah, I think Mum... Oh, this is college, is it? Oh, this is the Frobel College. And my room was up there on the 30th.
Where was the Frobel College?
In Roehampton. This is Ione and Stella. And there was a sort of old bit.
Looks like an old stable.
Stables, yeah. That looks like Caroline hanging out of the window. I don't know who that is.
But that's the rose garden to the side, isn't it?
I think so, yes. You can see the sort of 60s frocks, tight waists and full skirts as Ione. And this is the Froebel College. This is the famous rose garden where the headmistress ticked me off on my last night in college because I came in at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was a really nice college there. That's a Linnet Slot. Oh, that's Di Marn. I think there's my picture. That's my picture of Dad.
And that's disappeared, is it? A picture of Dad?
No, it's in France, I think. We weren't supposed to wear jeans, but this is the mill. That's Henry Scott Stokes, who was one of my very, very earliest boys. I knew him from when I was about 12. Here I am that's in a punt up at Oxford. That's Crystal with, I don't know, Mike Davis possibly. This is Oxford. Yeah, that's Mike Davis, I think.
And would you be visiting Dad, or?
No, I didn't know Dad. I didn't know Dad. I don't know.
You seen a man playing bagpipes?
Yes. Oh, isn't that wonderful? That's just the sort of lovely. Now, those are both my pictures. And this must have been an exhibition at college, I would think. There's my nun, that's Mrs. Spadolini on the right, from Italy. And there's my picture of Dad reading a book. That's Titus and Ione. This was either the exhibition, I think this was the exhibition at college because there's a sculpture I must have done. Really weird sculpture. These are the travels. I think this is wonderful, but I can't quite work out where it is. It's at a big, I think it must be Mallorca.
I think so. Well, I think it's Spain.
Yeah. But I don't think there's no other, I still can't quite make out whether this is when I went to northern Spain, this really primitive village, or whether it was in a big farm in Mallorca. Because
this would have been early 60s. This was when you were about 63, 64, something like that, 1963, do you think?
I think it could have been earlier than that.
Okay. After college, though.
It was after college, but I went to northern Spain while I was at college. So I can't quite, it doesn't look like Mallorca because it's too flat. Unless we went somewhere on the plane. But
did you work there, or how, did you just...
Where?
Help with the harvest?
No, when I went to northern Spain, I went to a wedding in a village, in the most primitive village, which was owned by the family, the whole family I was working for. And they had a wedding there. I don't know, I'd have to show this to Caroline or Oni and see whether it was Mallorca, but it doesn't look like Mallorca. But yet, some of the rest of the film seems to carry on from that. See, that looks more like the family house. They only went to it for 3 weeks a year, if you can believe it. And there was another wedding there, and they gave everybody in the village, the men had a bicycle and the women had a sewing machine. I think those were the children that I looked after. The Wansborough family, they were called. Now you see, look at that village. There was no cars in that village at all. See, it's really primitive, that. You see, I think it was Mallorca. It would be busier with donkeys and things. I think it must have been there.
Is that beret? That looks like sort of Basque.
Yes, it does. Well, it's near Leon, which is on the way to San Sebastian.
Did they wear berets like that in Mallorca?
They do wear berets in Mallorca. But I don't think I'd have to show, as I say, I think I'd have to show it to Ione and Caroline. But it looks more like northern, I think. It's really interesting, though, to see how primitive it was. Look at that. It's about the most, to go to a village where there's nothing. Now, you see, I have no idea who this man is. This is in Greece. I think this is Toulon.
When we were growing up, you talked about Greece all the time. It was one of your favourite places.
It is still one. It was absolutely lovely. I think this is Toulon. I think that's the minibus. We had a villa there, and I worked in a villa, and people came. They booked a holiday for a week, and they went to the villa, and then we had a boat, and then we went off in the boat, and the tavernas were all there on the beach.
And you used to cook for them, or what?
Yes, I cooked for them. Yeah, with 2 other people. Look at it, and now it's got covered.
That's the boat.
Yes, but I don't know who these people. I can't remember who these people.
He must have been working with you, mustn't he?
I don't know, but on the other hand, that looks a bit like. Oh, I think she was called Rosemary. I can't remember. You had a driver, an English driver, and a Greek. Or a Greek, I don't know. There were 2 English girls.
And that's you, isn't it?
Well, I can't believe it's me.
Why not?
I don't know.
You've caught a squid from the look of it.
If it's I had a pink gingham frilly bikini.
That's it.
But there was a girl that looked very like me called Penny. I think that might be Penny.
No, that's you.
Because that's how I got on the cruise ship, because I looked like Penny. And the director said, I want Penny to come on the boat with someone who looks like Penny.
And now we're in San Francisco, I think.
Are we?
About to go to a tennis match.
Oh, this is the tennis match, yes. This was a commemoration of the founding of the school, I suppose. And this was the anniversary tennis match. And that's me with a dog. I don't know where I got the dog from or the costume, but I very stupidly stuck branches in my tennis racket, which completely altered the weight. And I played with the gym teacher, who's that one in a skirt, and against a very famous tennis player called Jack Kramer, played at Wimbledon. And I played rather badly, I remember, being rather embarrassed.
You were a good player, weren't you?
Yeah, I was quite a good player.
And did you did some training or something? Got coached?
No, not
like
that.
Tracy Austin's coach or something?
No.
Is that right?
No, but when I left school, Mum said, did I want coaching? I can't remember what, it was an alternative, or was going to Switzerland or something, so I went to Switzerland. But I remember it being good fun, this match. But I regretted sticking stuff in my tennis racket, because it sort of changed the weight of it.
And why were you in San Francisco?
Well, this wasn't San Francisco, this was Los Angeles.
Why were you in Los Angeles?
Because I was teaching there. It was a Palos Verdes Estates. And the school was called Chadwick School, and it was a boarding school where a lot of B movie stars sent their children, so they all lived in Las Vegas or Hollywood or somewhere. There were 1 or 2 famous people. There was Peter Fonda was there, who was an Easy Rider. And there were 1 or 2 others, I can't remember the names now.
So you taught Peter Fonda?
No, I didn't actually teach him, but I knew him, yeah. There. And because I wasn't much different in age from the senior students were 18 and I was 21, I think. Because I went, no, maybe I was 22. It looks like a fish. It was all kind of a bit of a comedy, actually. There, you can see Jack Kramer there. Very professional. No, I don't know what this is about at all. I think this must be, there was a nice English couple there who had a child, but they didn't live on the campus. Yeah, we used to trampoline a lot. I don't think that's me, but
But some of these kids, they look quite, not a handful, but they were...
They were a handful because they've been completely spoiled. I don't know who that is lying out like that. I think this is just...
They just didn't work very hard.
No, I used to do remedial English and sports and things. But the main thing was I was a house mother in a dormitory with another lady called Maud Moran, who I got on very well with. But it was a hard task because they didn't, want to conform. They weren't used to it.
So did they drink and muck about and things?
I don't remember much drinking, but they mucked about, certainly. Particularly the skiing holiday was the hardest to control them, particularly when you had a bear looking through the windows. They were all screaming. This is not very exciting. About the trampolining. I don't know whether that's me or not.
I don't think so.
I was quite good. No, I was quite,
maybe it was.
I was quite good at trampolining by the end. I've never quite mastered the flip.
But did you like going to Chadwick School? Or?
I found it a bit difficult because it's quite isolated and I didn't have a car. I would have been better I was offered a job on the East Coast and I didn't take it, which was stupid because loads of friends there. But on the other hand, I got to travel a lot more.
And you earned some money as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I earned some money, but not a great deal. And I saved up for travelling, really. I went to Mexico, went to Tijuana, down to Baja California,
And why did you have the travel bug? Because both your sisters didn't seem to be big travellers.
Yes, they did. Anne went to South America.
Did she?
Yeah, she travelled around South America.
Wow.
And the person she was going with dropped out at the last minute, so she went on her own and met somebody there, I think. I can't remember. Now, this is all Chadwick School in Los Angeles. It's still going strong. And the whole town of Palos Verdes every house had to be roofed in red so they all looked alike. The sort of one of the first gated developments. Right, Mallorca. Right, that's Ione with Magali in the pram. So she had Magali, I don't know, I must have been about 23, I suppose. Stella, 24. Stella.
Why were you there? Why was Ione there?
Oh, Ione had married Raphael by then.
And she met Raphael in Mallorca or in England?
In England. That's the view down to the Puerto of Valldemossa, where Ione and I went a few years ago and swam. That's where the smugglers' route. There was a route where all the smugglers brought up the stuff. Now, I don't think that's Valldemossa because the beach looks too good. It's a stony beach. Let me just have a look here. No, it is. It's the Puerto. Now, the Puerto is, of course, a lot more built up now. Basically, it was a little fisherman's place. And then it's got these high mountains round about it. There was a lot of smuggling. Now, this is outside the fisherman's cottage, which Ione's family owned, which belonged to her grandfather, Raphael's grandfather, who was a fisherman there. Now, who this is, I'm not sure, unless it's one of the Graves family. It might be Thomas, because Robert Graves had a second family. William was the oldest, then Lucia, then Joan, and then Thomas. And this is, I'm not sure who this is.
And would you go swimming every day?
This is the Puerto at Valldemossa, yes. You had to walk down.
Okay.
No, it's the Puerto at Dea. It's the Dea. And that was the cafe, which is now enormous.
Look how clear the water is.
Yes, no, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I think this is one of the Graves boys. I don't know who this is. Anyway, that's Robert Graves. That is Robert Graves, and this was what he did every day when he went down to swim. He climbed round to this place, And he stood there. There's Stella. And then he dived in from that place. And William always says nobody ever had a picture of it, but I have to tell William. And there's one of the boys jumping in. And then you swim out to the mouth of the bay. And last time I went, I swam right out there. Last time I went with Stella, and there were lots of jellyfish, unfortunately. Now, who are these people? I wish I knew who they were. Unless one's Chris, what was he called? Petit, something like that. He sadly committed suicide. He was a poet. That looks like Robert. Don't know, I can't remember who these are. Stella. She always brushed her hair as she came out to sea. Great thing about brushing her hair. This is the view from climbing up, when you climb up from the beach at Dare. Is that it? Or is that the Puerto? No, it isn't. It isn't the Puerto. It must be Dare, I think. Anyway, we went round Mallorca quite a lot, to lots of other different places. No, that's the Dare Beach, I think. And it's quite a long haul up in the heat. It's quite a difficult climb.
Did the soft machine come to Valldemossa?
Oh yes. Well, this is it. And lots of famous people came to Dare. You know, there were poets and all sorts of people were there. People came to try and meet Robert Graves, and you'd be having tea, and you know, people would come in, and I don't know who this is with her.
And did Stella's dad come to?
Well, Stella's dad was Robert's best friend, and that's how, you know, that's how we all got friendly.
James Reeves, is that right?
Yes, James Reeves. Yes, who edited the English Book of Poetry. Now we have the Valldemossans. There's Bernardo on the left, Raphael with the beard, Matthias playing the ukulele. But I can't understand why Thomas isn't there. He might have been doing national service. Because Thomas plays the record. Oh, they were doing some promotional visio for the new record. But again, you know, you can see there's no cars back now. Mallorca's got cars and tourist buses.
And by this time they'd already been in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Well, that's what I don't know exactly. No, I think that's Marlene. There's me, Stella, Ione, and Caroline is here somewhere. And we had this sort of impromptu picnic. And Marlene's wearing red. She's the sister of the Valldemossans. She's also got a lovely voice. Stella, but wait a minute, I think there's Caroline in this.
Someone in more traditional dress.
Yes, that's Caroline. And look at the nuns going past with the children, the school children. Because they were all taught by nuns. This is the photographer. Yeah, there's Caroline with a scarf round her head.
Estradas.
Caroline Estradas, who's married to Matthias by then. Stella, we were always laughing, the three of us. We just giggled the whole time. And that's Magali in that basket. There's Matthias. And Bernardo, who was probably the biggest show-off of them all. Oh, the mill. That is Titus in his younger days. He was going out with Stella at the time. So thin, wasn't he? That's Lance throwing Stella in. Stella's always being thrown in by somebody. This is Lance diving out of the sitting room window. I'm not sure who that is. See what I mean about Stella always being chucked in by somebody? I don't know who some of these people are. I don't know who that is. Well, nothing's changed much about the mill except the bottom of the weir's a lot different. Oh, I do remember him. He's very muscly. I can't remember his name. Oh, we used to have a really good time there. Going over in a coracle. That's Henry Scott Stokes, whose parents were Henry Scott Stokes' parents were great friends of my mum and dad's. And there were 6 children. I think Henry was number 5. He was the only boy. Oh, is that coracle still going strong? I don't know. Be a lot of hijinks going on. Well, the mill hasn't changed much. We went to stay there on our own when we were about 17, I think. 18. Oh, that tree's got to come down, you know. They're going to cut the tree down with a swing. That's people waiting for the public ferry, I think. Ione and I we stayed at the mill and we went pea picking to earn some money. And these were all the gypsies. Travellers, you call them now. And they all came out in their best clothes, as you can see. And you picked the peas, put them in that sack, and then you got paid by sack. And I learnt my lesson the very first time because I picked my sack and put it at the end of the row, and when I looked round, somebody had taken it. And you had to pull the peas off, and they brought all the kids. And there was also a tramp who came, and he slept under the hedge. Stella always showing off. Gosh, we're back at the mill. Ione and I stayed at the mill, and we used to go over there and pick the peas. I don't know why Stella didn't come, it was just the 2 of us.
They must have been very carefree days.
They were very carefree.
You'd arrange it by letter, or how would you arrange to meet up?
Oh, I just think I invited people. There's Caroline, and don't know. Now look, that's the rectory as it was, with the trees, as it used to be before it burnt down. Really upset about that still. Now, this I think is, I'm not sure who this is. It's Amerigo, I think, teaching Stella the Cha-Cha. Amerigo Franchetti, who lives near Florence. But in the background is Henry Scott Stokes trying to look cool. He wanted to be he turned out, he was a journalist in Tokyo.
There we go.
Is that the end?
Yeah, perfect.